flaming flowers that brightly blaze, swirling clouds in violet haze, reflect in Vincent's eyes of china blue.
Can we start over? Because they're out of sync. While she's working that
fields
up,
of amber grain,
I liked
weathered faces.
I like to end. Don't start it yet.
Flaming flowers that brightly blaze.
I like to end with this song by Don McLean, and I like to do it because people, when you hear mental illness, most people think something terrible. They think about these young men in the U.S. who have gone crazy with guns and killed a lot of people. They think of people with mental illnesses doing all kinds of terrible things. The truth is those people are the tiniest minority of people with mental illness, and I've spent a lot of my life trying to diminish the stigma that is associated with mental illness because, you know, my patients have been real people. They have suffered in many different ways, and my job has been to help them heal and to also help them find roles in society and to work against the stigma that is associated with mental illness. Because people who have disorders like mood disorder or schizophrenia or Alzheimer's disease, they need to be valued and loved, not rejected, as so often happens. And so one way to fight the stigma is to point out that there's an association between being creative and having a mental illness. And that, in fact, a lot of people who have had mental illnesses have enriched our lives. The motto of NAMI, the National Association for Mental Illness, is people with mental illness enrich our lives. So you're going to see a slideshow of various people who have had various kinds of mental illness sync to a song that a lot of people like, Don McLean's Starry, Starry Night. Now we're ready to go.
Starry, starry night, flaming flowers that brightly blaze, swirling clouds in violet haze, reflect in Vincent's eyes of china blue, colors changing hue, morning fields of amber grain, weathered faces lined are soothed beneath the artist's loving hand. Now I understand what you tried to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen, for they could not love you, but still your love was true. And when no hope was left inside on that starry, starry night, you took your life as lovers often do. But I could have told you, Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you.
Microphones are working well today. Nancy, a great, fantastic talk. Stuart Colhagen, I'm from Questacon. I'm the Director of Science and Learning. It's one of the science centres in Australia. We're a partner in the Science of Learning Research Centre, which is part of the Brain Institute that runs out of Brisbane, primarily in Australia. We're working with them using functional magnetic resonance imaging studies. One of the things which we're particularly interested in, and one of the reasons we started work with them was, again, trying to explore, if you like, the value of hands-on activities. What is it? A lot of us have value interactivity, hands-on learning. It's kind of our DNA. One of the things which we're looking for that, using those related tools to the ones you've got there, are looking for what is that kind of aha moment on that. It's that kind of revelation. I'm just sort of wondering whether or not you'd like to reflect, predict, given that we're just at the moment shaping our studies, we haven't got the data there, whether or not you'd expect to see some similar patterning for those moments of revelation that you're seeing with those moments of creativity. And I think it's just that point of perhaps coincidence between a new understanding, creating a new understanding, and a more general creative process that you've seen.
I think the idea, is this microphone working well? I think the idea of particularly exploring hands-on creativity is a really cool idea, especially you're focusing on science, right? Science technology, yeah. Maribel has heard now over and over about a book I'm currently working on called The Age of Light, the impact of scientific discovery from Newton to Curie. Particularly wanting to bring to life scientists that are well known for some things, but not well known as human beings, and not well known within the context of the society in which they work. And right now I'm working on Faraday. And boy, if you want to find an example of hands-on learning, he is an amazing person. I was just explaining to Maribel how, we have to to write this book, I have to take myself back in time to when nobody knew that when you run a current down an electric wire, it produces a circular field around it. I mean, that was a great discovery in the early 19th century. And Faraday went on to, of course, discover the relationship between electricity and magnetism, and to develop the concept of fields, which didn't exist. And people thought he was somewhat crazy for seeing these things, but he was, on the one hand, a total hands-on experimentalist. And, you can read his books, experimental logs, and see him starting the morning with a problem and going through like 5, 10, 15 different experiments, all of them very much hands-on, just changing a few things. And sometimes at the end of the day, he would write no results at all. Other times he would write very good results or very exciting results. And I think a lot of people don't appreciate the value of hands-on work. And when Maribel and I were talking, I was saying, I'm struggling to see what he saw when he saw those fields around, say, the ends of a bar magnet or around the ends of a horseshoe magnet. And she said, my friends say it's easy. All you need to do is know the math. But the math, he had no math. He never learned any. He was a complete hands-on learner. And yes, the mathematicians made it clearer, and they didn't have hands-on knowledge. So I think it would be neat if you could figure out ways to design hands-on experiments that you could use in the MR scanner. The trick is that the number of things you can do inside a scanner are very limited, as you probably already realized. People can't talk. Yeah, and so you have to condense these hands-on things to doing something that's so that people create mental images of what they would be doing if they were actually moving their hands. One thing that's been interesting to us is that, yes, on the one hand, we're finding that scientists and artists have similar activations, but we're also seeing that individual people have really very different activations based on how they think. And one example is we had John Mather, an astrophysicist who got the Nobel for creating the explorer that went out and measured cosmic background radiation. And he, the word association task is seeing words, seeing numbers, silently repeating both. He had strong activations during the see the numbers and say them silently. And when I talked to him after he was scanned, actually he asked me, where did you get those numbers? And it's been so long since I got them that I'm not sure where, but I think I just mentally generated a series of numbers, and I happened to accidentally mentally generate a great big series of prime numbers. And so he was, during that number task, he was making the numbers into language, which were in many ways more his language than words. So just an interesting example of how sensitive these MR scans can be. What have you picked out as a, or have you found a paradigm yet?
So we haven't started putting, as it were, heads in the box yet on that. We're still, we'll leave them attached to the bodies, the experimental subjects. We're still exploring exactly that thing. For us, finding what are those great hands-on moments that, if you like, are examples where the penny drops, that someone can report, you know, before this, I didn't get it. After that, something happened during the hands-on, the embodied cognitive learning process on that something happened there. We're looking for those powerful experiences, and they happen to a lot of us. We're familiar with those basic science exhibits that will do that. We're looking for those, and then within those, we're still kind of filtering which are the ones which are going to be good candidates to either use within the FRMI or have an equivalent kind of experience in there. So we're still filtering our list of trials before we go and get time in the FRMI later this year.
Thank you, Stuart. So it's good to know that we're following the tradition of Faraday in terms of the value of hands-on learning. Yes, Joe.
So I have kind of a chicken egg kind of question about mood disorder creativity. As you were closing, you were talking about mood disorder almost as a byproduct of the unusual processing and behavior that comes with being creative. But it also, because it's genetically distributed through a population, must have a genetic trigger as well. So, a couple things. One is there an attitudinal difference about treating mood disorder when it is societally caused, like I'm a geeky person, nobody likes me, so I'm depressed, but I'm a great artist, as opposed to purely genetically driven, I'm depressed, I have no reason why, it's not helping me at all, or is the mood disorder so intrinsically tied up into creative behavior that with creative people, you just kind of have to let it play out? Does that make sense as a question?
It makes great sense as a question, and the most honest answer is that I don't know the answer. It's something I've spent my life trying to understand. I'm guessing that, you know, both are true. Some people are slightly socially impaired and geeky people, and therefore are lonelier than they want to be and understood less than they would like to be. and that can lead to mood disorder. I just had one person who had such horrible life events. He's met my assistant, Luann, who types up the transcripts, and she had tears running down her face the entire time she was typing the transcript. I mean, just absolutely tragic life, and which is different from being geeky, but it's still an environmental sort of thing. So I mean, I think that both are true. And probably in both cases, people can't help it. I mean, they have their personalities and they have their genetic endowments. Then they have their careers where, you know, over and over, people who have original ideas have to present them and get turned down. It's just a given. If you're a writer, you submit 10 short stories or whatever, and 8 or 9 of them will be rejected. And you just have to have enough belief in yourself to keep going in spite of, you know, a depressing life environment. That pertains to writers. I'm sure you've had that to some extent in your life experiences. It pertains to scientists, you know, applying for grants and writing papers and getting them rejected by Science or Nature or PNAS or whatever. I mean, one of the things that is characteristic of most people in this current study, people who are very, very successful, is that they are very persistent. They are absolutely dogged. They do have enough belief in themselves so that they keep going and going and going and going. An important message.
Okay. Graham Walker at the Australian National University. It's fabulous to hear you're looking at Faraday because he was a real pioneer of a lot of things we do in science centres. My question's about incubation, and I just wondered, given you're saying it's kind of an unconscious process and kind of just falls into place, how can we nurture that process in our work when it's something that happens unconsciously?
Answer would be, you know, multiple ways. Let people know that it's okay to take a break and think. They don't have, you know, they don't have to be doing something all the time. Again, most of these people whom I've studied actually describe how they might be working on a play or a novel or whatever, and they've hit a place where they don't know what to do next, and they'll go out, or I'll take George Lucas as an example, and I'm not betraying any confidence. He goes out and gets in his car and drives. And while he's driving, he just lets his mind wander. Another person said, when I'm having problems, he said, I don't normally take baths, but when I'm at a place where I need to, he didn't say incubate, but that's pretty much what he meant. He said, I'll draw a bath and go sit in the tub and have a think. So it's letting people know that it's okay not to spend every single minute trying to actively solve a problem, and B, letting them know that it's okay to take intellectual time off, so to speak. And I think that could probably even be built into the work environment so that I don't think it would be necessarily right to allocate a incubation moment in the day, but a way to handle it that would probably work pretty well is to say, you know, there's this process called incubation, and if you're having a block in a problem, we have this policy of letting you take 15 minutes, 30 minutes, A lot of people have it work when they stretch out on a bed and just lie there and think. You know, different people have different methods, so facilitating 2 or 3 different ways that people can take their break and have a think. Does that make sense?
Completely, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, mine's when I walk my dogs. Yeah, that's helpful, thank you.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
May I? Okay. We've talked. My name is Emily Abrera, and I have a privilege of sitting on the board of the Mind Museum. Dr. Andreasen, we've talked so much about brain activity. What about brain inactivity? I mean, and I'm talking about, well, so much has been written about, you know, meditation, calming the mind, getting to that point where of no thought. I mean, if that is possible, have you measured any of this this phenomenon? People in a meditative state.
Yeah, I have not myself done studies of meditation. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and you know, the limitation is that there are only so many hours in the day, and as everybody here knows, only so many dollars in the research funds as well. But there are people who have looked at meditation, and the notion that it's inactive or kind of blank, people may instruct their minds to be blank, but what seems to happen is not blank at all. The person who's, I think, done the most and best work on this is a fellow named Richie Davidson, who's at Wisconsin, and he studied Buddhist monks. I think he studied the Dalai Lama. He studied meditators versus non-meditators, and measured, in addition to MR, I think the most powerful findings are actually with EEG, where there's speed of waves, and so slow waves are in the delta, theta range. On the other end, there are alpha and gamma rays, and in particular, the people who are good at meditation have a very high level of gamma activity, fast wave activity in their brains, which to me suggests that their brains are very active, because at the other end of the spectrum, the slow waves are what lead into sleep and associated with drowsiness and not much intellectual activity. So if the question is, what do we know about meditation? The existing evidence seems to indicate that it's not a state of emptiness at all. It's a state of increased brain activity. In his studies, he also tried to train college students in meditation. And although they got better, they never got as good in producing gamma activity as the Buddhist monks.
Sorry, that's about the enough time we have for questions. Can we ask everyone to, we're going to, I'm sorry? Yes, but we're going to announce the, yes, actually, the flash it, please. CK wanted this particular announcement. Thank you so much, Dr. Andreasen. So everyone is invited to the following group discussions. The Aspect Traveling Exhibition tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. to 8:25 a.m. here. And then on the 29th on Wednesday, 7:30 a.m. to 8:25 a.m. here as well. There will be special tables for it. Now we're going to the Aspect photo. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Just listen to the announcement and to give you directions on where to head next. Thank you.
May we now invite everyone to join us for the official opening of the ASPAC 2015 Marketplace. Please proceed to the museum lobby. Again, we encourage everyone to join us for the official opening of the ASPAC 2015 Marketplace. May we invite you to join us at the museum lobby.